But, you know, it's all coming to a head now. It's all coming to a head now because I've finished the big book of near-death experiences. That's the big one. 360 degrees. Positive, negative, right, wrong, good, bad, indifferent. You know, what's wonderful and what's not so wonderful. The experience, the after effects, the implications. It's all there. International. Never been done before. Nothing else like it. The big book of near-death experiences. Now I get to work. Now I get to complete my theoretical model. Haven't done it yet. But it's organized. Or I'm in the process of organizing it. And it's all coming together. It's all coming together. And it's interesting, like, I have to kind of hold it back. The sense is to kind of hold it back a little bit because I don't want my experience to come crashing in. I still want it to be that broader experience. But I've got to tell you, my own experience is starting to intrude a little bit in how I feel and how I view some of this. And, you know, if I'm allowed to be a little bit personal about the research. The power of the near-death experience is not so much what any individual says, the superstars, you know, the bestsellers. It's in the sum of the many. That's a voice that speaks with thunder, the sum of the many. And if you look at that voice, if you hear that voice, it's a little different. It's a little different from what we keep hearing and liking and this kind of thing, what we're drawn to. Because when you do broad-based study, the classical model of the near-death experience does not hold up. It doesn't hold up at all. And this idea of the light at the end of the tunnel is really a myth. Not that many people have it. You're looking at intensity. You're looking at a force. You're looking at an intense force or punch that hits people, grabs people, affects people in such a way that it causes physiological changes as well as psychological. When I say physiological, I'm talking about the brain-mind complex. I'm talking about the nervous system, the digestive system, and the skin. I'm talking about change. It's changing the human body. Maybe it's just kind of reverting the human body back to what it was a long time ago. But we're talking about a lot of changes here, not just changing attitude or becoming more generous or what have you. When we're looking at the sum of the many, there are 4 words that near-death experiencers, adult or child, say more than anything else after their experience is over. 4 words. I don't care whether they live in Wyoming or Israel or Kenya. Well, if they're speaking English, that I can hear them. Or the translation of, or Holland, Russia, I don't care where they are. Same 4 words. And those 4 words are, always there's life. Always there's life. Just hang on that. Just hang on that for a little bit. Always there's life. That means then that there is no afterlife. That means that there is no before life. That means that always there is life in some form, in some place, at some level. Always there is life. And that all the stories we ever heard about immortality, eternality, are true. We may not have the same shape or name we have now, but we're still alive. We're still alive because we were never anything else. And you look at this larger picture, and that hell is just as real as heaven. They both exist. But there's many levels to both of them. That the other side is like a layer cake of different frequencies or different dimensions or different spaces, whatever you want to call it. And that hell is more dense, it's more cold, it's more heavy. And that what we call heaven is more light and more bright and easier and more pleasant. And that there's many levels of both, but there's no end point on either one. You can't stay in heaven any more than you can stay in hell. And I'm looking up here. It's like always there's choice. That's our birthright. That's our guarantee. Always there is choice. And no matter what level you are in, you can wake up to the fact that there's more. And that you can learn and you can grow and you can progress and there's more. And there's more beyond heaven. There's more beyond hell. There's more beyond all of it. There's more beyond the in-between and the betwixt and the between. And the shadow lands and the in-between lands. There's more. That we're only trapped or held in any place by our own belief, by our own desires, by our own emotions, by our own unfinished business. That the other side is so dynamic and so real and so incredibly varied. It's not one place where you go and sit on a cloud and play a harp. It's a dynamic place. And the various channelings from psychics and mediums, that's maybe one level. Maybe a part of a level. Maybe a couple of levels. But you don't get any sense of how vast it is, how big it is, how dynamic the other side is. And I want to say that this side is also equally varied and equally dynamic. And I just want right now to not talk about all the work I've done and all the research I've done. I never decided to be a researcher. Never. That was not my choice. There was no choice. I was told to do that in my third near-death experience. So that's why I'm alive. That's what I do. I never chose to write a single book. Not one. That was there for me to do. It called me. I don't do anything without prayer and meditation. That's where I get my instructions. And then I do my outline, and then I look over the research, and then I put it all together. And even in that process, I'm in and out of altered states and meditative and prayer states all the time. I really wouldn't know how to write a book mentally. I just wouldn't know how to do that. Although the mind's very much involved. And the left brain is very much involved. And I really respect the left brain. I'm very organized. I'm very disciplined. I'm very organized. But it all comes together as it should because of how it speaks to me and calls me and what it chooses to do by itself. It's like at this point in my life, everything's starting to merge again. It's just, I don't know if I'm going back to my childhood or what it is, but it's like everything is merging. And it's like, I don't know how to put this into words. It's like, horror is almost at the same level as wonder. Disaster is almost at the same level as joy. And I'm not saying that horrible things don't bother me, because they do. And I'll really cry sometimes, and really, well, I do more prayer work than tears. Really called into prayer. But in that prayer, it's never the idea of my will, it's always thy will. It's never the idea that anything is wrong. It's never the idea that this is the end of the world. It's never the idea that evil is afoot. But it's rather the idea of affirming divine order. Whatever is right at that moment in time, for the highest good of all concerned, that's where I put my energy, that's where I put my focus, that's what I surrender to, and that's what I affirm. I'm also a prayer chaplain. And I've long since learned that you can't save people. Because if you did, you'd rob them of their learning, their opportunities. You do what you can. If I'm directed into service, if I'm directed into saving someone, I'm there. But if I'm told to step back or hold back or have a sense or feeling to hold back, I hold back. I live my life in accordance with what is real at that moment. And positive, negative, good and evil just, it doesn't have a lot of meaning. Now that doesn't mean that I don't have my fritzes, because I get fritzy sometimes. I'm very challenged by some of the things in the earth world that's going on right now, especially a religion that calls itself a religion of peace and seems somehow not to object to schoolgirls being killed or gunned down, or children being forced to go back into a burning school because their heads aren't covered. You know, I mean, you can call that religion if you want to. You can call that Allah or God if you want to, but I call it nonsense. That's not God. That's man. Those aren't God's rules. Those are man's rules. I get fritzy sometimes. But I use that challenge to feel another level. What else is going on here? I can understand poverty. I can understand despair. I can understand hate. I know what those feelings are, and it's not a head trip. Not a head trip. I came very close to killing my own mother. I had the butcher knife in the raised position, ready to bring it down and plunge it into that woman's back. And I heard a voice say, if you do that, you will be punished. Well, remember, I said I had a logical mind. Why would I be punished for ridding the world of a terrible woman? That wasn't logical to me. And because it wasn't, I put the knife down. And my mother then turned around with no color, white as a sheet, her mouth open, her eyes wild with fear. I know she knew what was about to happen. It took a long time before I could forgive my mother, forgive myself, forgive the two of us, and love that woman. And I do love her. I do love her. I do love her. I understand what she went through. I mean, I know what these feelings are. Don't lecture me. I know. Been there. I know what it's like to go to bed at night and hear your son crying himself to sleep because all he wants is a glass of milk. I had no money. You want hell? That's hell. And I know what joy is. I know all those feelings. And they're all human. They're all part of the same package. They're what makes us unique. And without them, without the contrast they give us, we could not learn. We could not recognize. We could not advance. We could not learn. We could not progress. Can you be enlightened without horror? Maybe. Sounds good. But enlightenment to me is being able to see through the contrast. But you got to have the contrast there first, see through it. I can't begin to say how wonderful it all is. And the only place I have to go or need to go to be reminded is out my door, into my little forest, and pick up some dirt, and there it all is. Touch a leaf, and there it all is. Look at my chair, there it all is. Look at my food blender, there it all is. How do I cook? Well, I ask the food what it wants to do, and we both have fun. It's all there. Been married to my husband now. Be 28 years in April. It's the Holy Communion just to sit in the same room with that man. It's the greatest of all blessings, just touch his skin. Near-death experiences talk about their angels, and I say, well, I married mine. He's got the darndest curly hair I ever saw. Complete little curls all over the place. Darker skin than I am. Broader lips, bigger nose. People say he's black, and I say, well, look again, then this man's brown. Those little God kisses, that's what I call these little curls. They float all over the place. I call them God kisses. So he's wearing a brown jacket this time around, and I'm wearing a speckled one. You know, this isn't white, this is speckled. It's all God. Don't call me spiritual. Don't do that to me. I don't ever want to be spiritual. I mean, that's taking something out. I want to be whole. That's my goal. I want to be whole. I want to be all I am and all I ever could be and am or ever can be. I want to be all I am. I want to be one with the one, because that's all there is one. That's all there is wholeness. If you pull spirituality out, you're tricking yourself. That's not spirituality. If you dress a certain way or act a certain way and you're super cool and you're super loving and you speak a certain tone of voice and you're completely self-realized, that to me is nonsense. I want to be all I am. I'm part rascal. I'm part idiot. I'm part saint. I'm part floor scrubber. I'm a mother. I'm a grandmother. I'm a wife. I'm a researcher. And I like to draw pictures once in a while. Why should I be anything else except more of that? And the more I get into the more, shape and design fade. Roles, the roles we play fade. And there isn't any wife, and there isn't any mother, and there isn't any rascal, and there isn't any idiot, and there isn't any saint. There's that presence of God that I was in when I died the third time. And that voice that powers me still. God. That's what it is. It's God. It's God.
I gotta laugh and cry at the same time. You know? Don't you? That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was so beautiful.
That's all there is. There isn't anything else. It's just God. Yeah. I've had so many people lately. I wrote the book Beyond the Indigo Children, and it's an expose of this exaggeration or misleading material on the so-called indigo children and crystals and starseeds and transitions and all this other stuff. You know, labels limit. If we just look at what's really happening. And because I've been speaking out and giving a counterpoint respectfully, to all these other people, then I've had so many people call me on the phone or contact me in email messages, or even when I'm talking out and about, they'll come up to me and say, I really think you need to look up this website or read this book and learn how to be more spiritual. You're just not spiritual enough. You're just not seeing things the way they are. How dare you say what you're saying? This is, this is wrong, what you're saying. I know I'm an indigo child. I know I'm an indigo. Well, that's fine. That's fine. Did you realize that patterning of human, it's been around since the time of Jesus? Weren't that many then, but there were a lot. And and all of the different renaissances the earth has ever known, clusters and groups came in then. And that there was a big push of that kind of person that began about the middle 1800s, especially around 1870, and continued up into the 1920s. And we got a lot more clusters coming in the 50s and 60s, a little in the 70s, but the floodgates, of course, opened wide in 1982. And if you're going to look at indigos and crystals and starseeds and all this other stuff, toss the labels, keep all of the characteristics. put them together in one bunch, and you got the profile of the new kids. And that's what they are. They're the new kids. There's never been another generation like them in recorded history that we know of. When actually there has been, but we just didn't record it in generational statistics and studies. And if you take a look at the root races and esoteric traditions, then you can begin to understand it. If you take a look at our changing times and the great shifting, then you can begin to understand it. If you understand astrology, if you understand generational research, then you can understand it. But to pull them out and pick them out and say this is it and that is that, these children are inclusive, not exclusive. Well, what are we doing putting them into boxes? They don't want to be in boxes. So when I speak about this, all these people say, oh, well, you got to go to school and become more spiritual. You got to get into training. You need to meditate more. And I just look at them and smile and wonder, what is this stuff we call spiritual now? Maybe it's just another cottage industry where we can make more money. It doesn't have anything to do with spirit or God. God is all. God is the God of all. Not just of certain people. And not just we call some people living luminaries. Hey, take a look at some of those people that are living luminaries. I know enough about some of them to know they're no living luminary. Now, we're kidding ourselves if we're just going for the next hot thing and the next sensationalism. We're allowing the demands of the media to instruct us and determine what it is we believe. I'm praying for children and generations who question, who say, no, I'm not going to be led. I want to find out for myself. I want to know. I want to find my own proof myself, my way. Give me the spunky ones. Those are the kids I want. Give me the spunky ones.
The Rascals.
Yeah. I want Rascals.
Mm-hmm. Wow. You did it again, another big burst of beauty. That was so awesome.
Look, I did my first double-blind study with a control group at the age of 5. I've always been questioning.
Thanks to your dad.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dad.
Well, I was like that before him. Long before him. I was always spunky. And I think it was because I had 5 fathers and 2 mothers. So I never had any one path and any one parental guidance system. I never had one imprinting. I had this broad base. So I grew up looking for more of that. More of that which is broad. And I was raised at a time when it took a village. Really, if you were walking down the street and a person in this house did not like the way you were walking, or if they heard you cussing or doing anything improper, they would come charging out of their house. They would come over and they would set you straight or shake you. It was none of this stuff of, well, maybe I better call the police first, or the parents might sue me. I wasn't raised in that kind of environment, so I don't know what that kind of environment is. I was raised in an environment where the world was open. And that was very rich for me. That was very rich, to live in an open world. And my sorrow today is that we don't have that. Oh, it still exists, but not to the extent that it did when I was a kid. So how do we handle what we have now? Well, it seems to me like education and questioning is the answer to that. It seems to me like wanting to know more is the answer to that. It seems to me like taking advantage of all the moments you have is an answer to that. It seems to me like the more we honor each other and listen to each other and hold each other and reach out to each other, that nurturance is the best we can get. That's the kind of love that's active. And a child must have that. Yes, they have the passive kind, but they've got to have the active kind too. You know, if there's a boogeyman around the corner, then get up off your buns and go around the corner and see. Maybe it's real, maybe it's not. And we need to talk to our children more and listen to them talk back more. Involvement, expression, involvement. If we get more of that, more support, more honoring, you know, I honored the different opinions. I may not like them, and I may tell you I don't like them, but I'm going to honor you, and I'm going to bless you, and I'm going to defer to you. Absolutely. You know, the old saying, you look at anybody and everybody, and that's God looking back at you. Well, certainly that's true. But what I've realized is that it's me looking back at me. Because God and I are the same thing. At least on the level of sameness. And that everything is my mirror. Yeah, that's the agreement my husband and I made when we got married, because we were so different. Just totally different people. From totally different worlds. You know, how are we going to last? We'd only known each other 6 weeks when we got married. We met at a Zen meditation meeting. I can honestly say Zen brought us together. That's kind of funny in itself. We agreed to two things. First of all, that you must always have a decision. So if the two of us can't make a decision, if we, you know, well, what do you want? And he would say, well, what do you want? I mean, that's static. It doesn't get anywhere. So it was a coin toss, you know, 2 out of 3. So we go with the coin toss. That's one thing we agreed to. And the second thing we agreed to is anytime we get mad at each other, or aggravated, or in an absolute snit, the first place we go to is the mirror. And we take a good long look in the mirror, and we say something about, hey, where are you coming from? What's really pouring out of you? Take a good look at yourself. So we have that interaction with ourselves in the mirror. And when that's over, when we can really say where we're coming from, when we can feel comfortable about our side, then we go back and we talk to the other one. But then and then only. You got to do your stuff first before you can get back with the other one. And that did it, you know. My husband and I went through so many fabulous things in learning how to get along with each other. I mean, they were absolutely fabulous. But I'd like to share one. Do you have time?
Oh, I've got time for it.
Okay.
No, we have.
Okay.
No, we don't. I don't have any.
Okay, I'd like to share one.
There is no time, remember that?
Yeah, I know, but I got to do some other things too. This is so funny. If I'd say it was black, he'd say it was white. If I'd say it was day, he'd say it was night. I mean, we are that opposite. We are totally opposite. And if you look at our astrology chart, the 4 major things in our chart are directly opposite. I mean, everything is opposite. I mean, that's just the way we are. So my husband at that point in time when we married was wearing really flashy clothes. He was working in the media, that is to say television, and you know, it depended a lot on how you looked in front of the cameras. So he would wear these flashy clothes and very colorful clothes. And I was at the point in my life where all I wanted to be was invisible. You know, I'd done this stuff with thousands of people and all this stuff all my life, and I didn't want to be recognized. Just wanted to be invisible. So I wore beige. Everything I had was beige. Shoes, socks, coats, sweaters, everything was beige. Handbag, beige. That bothered him so much. He says, "You're such a beautiful woman. You're so lovely. Why don't you wear color?" And I would look at him and I would say, "And you look like a stuffed peacock." So we went round and round and round about each other's wardrobe. So this one day I was working a job, and then I was working as telephone systems analyst for an interconnect company before the divestiture with Ma Bell. So I was working with huge telephone systems. And I just got back from working a job in another state, and I got back early. And I thought, oh, I'm just going to cook this wonderful meal for this man, and I'm going to surprise him. I'm not going to call him, not going to tell him I'm here. I'm just going to cook this wonderful meal for this man. So I did. And of course, he came home early, and he said, "You can't fool me." He says, "I'm psychic too. I knew you were here." So he comes. So he got home from his job early. He was so happy to see me. And he was lifting this morsel on his fork to his mouth. Oh, I need to go back a little bit. Before I cooked the meal, I went into a little extra room with an extra closet, and in that closet was hanging his winter coat, which I thought was the most awful thing I'd ever seen in my life. It was green paisley print satin coat, green paisley, with several different shades of green and pink, like little flowerets in it, and a little bit of cream-colored stuff in it. And it had huge, massive collar of dark green velvet and dark green velvet cuffs, big things. And then double-breasted, huge gold buttons that looked like mirrors marching down the front of that thing. That was so bad. Not only would I not walk with him when he wore that coat, I wouldn't even own up to him as ever having been my husband when he put that coat on. And it became an issue. That coat. It's sort of like the coat or me. It wasn't that bad, but it was getting that bad. So, you know, this one day I came home early, and I went into the room and opened up the closet door, and there's that coat, that awful coat. So I kept it on the hanger, but I opened it up in such a way that the coat was in front of me. You know, I opened it up so that it hung in full glory in front of me. And I started examining the coat. It had gold lining too, gold quilted lining. And I started examining that coat. And I said, well, you know, those seams are well done. Beautiful seams in that coat. there really is beautiful satin. And I was feeling, the collar and the cuffs and said, well, that's really soft. I can really kind of get into that. That's beautiful, beautiful velvet and satin. And, those gold buttons are like mirrors. I can see myself in them. And, I just started seeing more and more kind of nice, lovely things about that coat. So I finally picked the coat up and I danced with it. I danced all around the room with the coat. And I got to the point where I liked that coat. So I hung it back up in the closet, and then I fixed this nice meal for my husband. And his name is Terry. Terry came home. He's just lifting the fork with the first morsel to his mouth. And I reached over and I grabbed his arm and I put it down. I said, before you eat, I want to make a deal. And he says, okay, I'll listen to it. I said, well, my deal is this. If you'll accept plain Jane me, I'll accept Nevada Flash you. No more complaints. No more criticism of each other's wardrobe. From now on. Will you accept the deal? He said yes. So he didn't complain anymore about my plain Jane beige. And I didn't complain anymore about his flashy stuff. And do you know, this is so fun. In 6 months, he'd replaced his entire wardrobe with more conservative clothes, suits. I had replaced my entire wardrobe with colorful clothes. See, I'm wearing color now. Neither one of us made a decision. Neither one of us made a choice. We just automatically, easily, comfortably did it. And that moment came when we just started noticing what we'd done. We didn't decide to do it. It just happened. And we both learned the same lesson at the same time, and it was so dramatic. Wherever you put your attention is where you put your power. Take the tension away, and it disappears. The problem disappears. Why do you suppose people put on such shows for the media, and when the media is gone, they go back to normal living? They want the tension. Because tension is power. Wherever you put your attention is where you put your power. Take the tension away, and there's no more power. I like things that happen automatically, that you don't have to think about it. That's what I like to teach. That's what I like to share. That's what I give workshops a lot on now. And it's these things I had to learn after I died. Because I had to relearn breathing. I had to relearn hearing and thinking and moving and, how to wear a body, how to be a human being. I had to relearn all of that. And it's simple little techniques anybody can use that make all the difference in the world. You don't have to go to big classes. You don't have to read all these big books. You don't have to go through all these exercises. All you need to know is simple little techniques and facts and truth, and that's it. You got it. That's it. Simple. Life is simple. How many people in yoga, for instance, teach you the real power of the pranayamas or the breath techniques? They don't do it. You want to learn deep chest breathing? Hey, center all that air over the diaphragm. All you have to do is this. Make a little circle, touching gently the thumb to the index finger, not squish like this, just gentle. The other fingers are out, not stiff, just out. That's all you have to do. Who watches you when you're walking? Walk like this. Who watches what you're doing with your fingers when you're walking? You're watching television. Well, do it like this. Watching a movie. Do it like as often as you can each day. Do this. That's the exercise to fill up all the lobes and then center all your air over the diaphragm, which is over the solar plexus, which strengthens you. What they don't tell you is, oh, this is the fun part, what they don't tell you is that automatically makes you more patient. That automatically enables you to think clearer and in a more reasoned manner. That automatically helps you to be more truthful and calm. And it's automatic. All you did was this. Hey, I got 1 million of them. No. It's just, that's all you got to do. It's just simple little things like that. Just realize everything you have at eye level in your home, whether it's a picture on the wall, whether it's a sofa, whether it's a decoration, doesn't matter what it is. That's what you're praying for. Go around in all the rooms of your home and take a look at what you've got at eye level. You're praying for all of that. So take a look at what you're praying for. Is that what you really want? It's interesting to do that in people's homes. I was with this one man, he was an insurance agent. In his den, kind of a dark, real man's den, with all the accoutrements of a real man's den. Heavy wood paneling and all this stuff. And he had such a kind of a morbid sense of humor and idea about what life was. And I finally got into his den where he spent most of his time. And there on his walls were pictures of cemeteries and tombstones. That explained everything to me. I was in this one woman's child's bedroom, her son. She was having so much problems with him. Overactive, wouldn't do what she wanted him to do, behavior problems. Over his bed was hanging this massive, huge picture, abstract. It was an abstract painting of slashes of black and red and yellow. Slashes! Not nice shapes, nothing rounded, just slash, 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 slash. I took that mother to one side and had a little talk with her. She got rid of the painting. Made a difference in the child's behavior. You're always absorbing whatever you're around. So, hey, take a look at what you surround yourself with. And the holiest room in your house is your bedroom, really. And the holiest object in your house, your altar, is your bed, because that's where you lay your body. And whatever is in your bedroom, that's what protects you while you're sleeping. That's what nourishes you and feeds you while you're sleeping. What does your bedroom look like? I'll show you what my bedroom looks like pretty soon. I mean, we seem to think that everything in life just works on one circuit according to how we choose to view it. We don't realize that everything in life is working, period. It's always working. It's always alive. It's always interacting with us. There's this constant interaction all the time. We're bringing in, we're letting go. There's this constant circulation. It never stops. So take a look at what you surround yourself with. Is that why you're overweight? Is that why you're nervous? Is that why you're depressed? Take a look at what you surround yourself with. Take a look at where you put your thoughts. What are you always thinking about? It's not just your thoughts. It's also everything you surround yourself with. Day or night, we have these symbols. Doesn't matter whether you're dreaming or wide awake, there's always symbols. Symbols and signals and signs. The earth world is always talking to you. Your body is always talking to you. Just listen.
Do you have any other tools or tips that we all need?
Well, I need to the dynamic of a class where you could really act it out and you really work with it, and blackboards and things like that.
So are you optimistic about these changes that we're going through, the world?
Yes, I'm very optimistic about the changes the earth world is going through now, in the sense that I see a lot of good coming from it. And I know that it's cyclic. I know that it's part of the process. I know that it is time. I call it the great shifting because that's what it is. Everything is shifting in a massive way. I mean, we're at the end right now of a 25,920 year cycle. Of course it's a big shifting. Or is it 24,590 year cycle? Anyway, I'd have to look that up. But it's a big, massive cycle. Well, for all extents and purposes, let's just call it a 25,000 year cycle. And it's peaking now, and so a lot of other cycles are peaking now. And yes, there's lots of life. There already has been. Yes, the earth world is changing. It already has been. You know, look at the things that have been happening in the last 5 years that are of biblical proportion. One right after another. You know, Edgar Casey, all the great prophets have said, have been talking about the time of the great earth changes. You know, it's coming. One of these days it's coming. You know, the big changes are coming. Well, I'll tell you folks, they began in the third week of November 2004. That's when the big cycle shifted in. And, you know, if we're talking about the big earth changes, we're already there. They're happening now. They're not going to happen in 2012. They're happening now. Massive changes. 2008, lots of changes where money and finance and power is concerned. Big changes ahead of us. Are they all going to be wonderful? No, they're not. But how are we going to call that? I don't want to see people pushed out of their homes. I don't want to see people living on the street. I don't want to see people dying or crying because they can't make mortgages, they lost their jobs. You know, I've been through that. I know how painful that is. But I also know that we're going to see that, and we're going to see a lot of it. So what are we going to do about it? Well, you can't rescue everybody, you can't save everybody, but to the extent that you can help, to the extent that you can make a difference, to the extent that you can start things that will mushroom and grow and assist people, then we need to do that. Micro loans instead of huge loans. You know, all of these things that we can do now that make a difference and build up that pride and that sense of accomplishment and that the sense of realness. You know, we can do all of this, and we are. Are we going to save everybody? No, we're not. You're a Pollyanna if you think we are. We're not. Is there going to be great suffering? Yes, there already is. I've suffered a lot in my life. I know what that is. Will I do more? Could be. But you know, I'm not going to run away. I'm not going to go boo-hoo. I'm not going to get depressed about this. I'm just going to grab this as I always have been and see what I can do with it. What can I do to make a difference? Maybe it's a talk. Maybe it's a touch. Maybe it's financing something. I'm going to do whatever I'm called to do. I always have. I always will. This is not new for me. Been there, done that. This is part of a continual process of the earth evolving, human species evolving. All things evolve. Are we going to save all the species? No, we're not. We never did. They have always gone extinct, and new ones come up. Mother Nature takes care of that. DNA takes care of that. I'm not concerned about saving all the species. I'm not concerned about saving all the people. I'm concerned about what is it going to take to wake us up to what the true reality is. And the true reality is God, really. That sense of wholeness, that sense of oneness. But realizing that that sense of oneness doesn't mean we're all going to be wearing white robes and praying all the time. That sense of oneness means we incorporate everything together. Even those things that bother me. The things that bother you. The things that bother everybody else. We incorporate it in that blessing, in that knowingness of divine order. Loving someone doesn't mean you have to like them. But you love them anyway, because they're divine, because they're of God. I don't like what they do. Don't like the habits. Don't like the way they express themselves. Maybe I don't even like the way they talk. That doesn't mean I even have to be around them. But I can still bless them. I can still help them. I can still serve to whatever capacity is there for me to do. I think the question should be, what is there for me to do? Not what shall I do? What should I do? What can I do? What is there for me to do? Let it call you. Then answer the call.
How can I serve?
What is there for me to do? Maybe it's serving, maybe it's something else. What is there for me to do? Well, for me, it was being a researcher. I didn't want to do that. I didn't choose to do that. But the question was, what is there for me to do? There it was. Do I want to write all these books, especially the big book of... That thing was a lot of work. What is there for me to do? Half of all royalties for 5 years goes to the International Association of Near-Death Studies. At the end of 5 years, they own the book. Yes, I did the research. Yes, I did the work. But I'm very clear about this. That book belongs to the readers. It belongs to whoever it helps. And the best way to honor that is the International Association of Near-Death Studies, because they're an international clearinghouse of this information. Let's keep them going so that they can go on and help the next million and the next million and the million after that. 4 to 5% of the population of the world either has had or will have a near-death experience. There's a lot of people in every country. Let's keep that clearinghouse open. So buy the book. I only get 50% of it for 5 years, but that's okay. Buy that book. Keep it going. Let's keep them financed. That's one way I could do it.
Can I call time out for a second?
Sure.
I have to pee. We are rolling. Anytime. Good luck.
All of my life I've been a fighter. That's why I'm alive, is because I'm a fighter. When I was a child, I had polio, pneumatic fever, St. Vitus dance, one thing after another. I didn't think I'd ever survive my own childhood. And any doctor who told me that I would never walk again or whatever, I always said, oh yeah, and prove them wrong. So I've fought all my life. And what I've learned is that I'm the greatest of all fighters when I surrender. That surrender is the greatest fight of all. It's the greatest winning of all. It's the greatest power of all. Is if you just surrender to the moment and surrender to the gift of that moment. Because in every single problem or difficulty, doesn't matter what it is, it's a gift. And it's up to you to unwrap the gift and to see what's there. And learn from it or accept it or discover it or play with it. But in any moment, whatever happens to you is a gift. And, the greatest power is surrender.
Do we give thanks for that afterwards?
I'm always saying thank you. I'm always saying thank you. That's part of my vocabulary. Is thank you, God. Always God. Always God. You can call God deity. You can call God the one mind, the one force, the one. You can call God source. You can call God Allah. I don't care what you call God. It's still God. It's not God, goddess. It's God. I still use that term because that term is still comfortable to me. But I know that God is. And people say, do you believe in God? I say, no way. Belief implies doubt. I have no more doubts. God is, God is, God is. And my greatest strength is my ability to surrender and make room for and honor. And my greatest love is adventure. I love adventures. And my greatest truth is life. And all that life is. That's truth. And the power of that truth is accepting it and recognizing it and allowing it to be. And that doesn't mean that I'm a wimp. Ho, ho, ho. No way. But it does mean that I know where the power is.
I can't wait for you to watch this. It's really good. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. You say you won't watch it?
Probably not. But
Will your husband watch it?
Probably not, but you can send it anyway if you want. Who knows? Maybe in a weaker moment I might.
All right. It's great.